Hi, this is Kevin Blaine with the Kevin Blaine Real Estate Team, and welcome to KBTV. This is our first web episode, and I am very delighted because we have a very special guest today. We have the top real estate agent in Tulare and Kings County, and recently named by Realtor Magazine 30 Under 30. Help me welcome Diego Espinoza. Diego, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. So Diego Espinoza, as I mentioned, recently honored 30 Under 30 Realtor Magazine, which will be coming out toward the end of May, early June edition. You'll want to make sure and pick that up. Diego, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
One thing that I wanted to ask you about, since you do sell real estate for a living, is what made you decide to choose real estate for your career? Before you answer that, Diego's 26 years old and got his license when you were
21,
so about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're obviously very smart, you're very successful, hardworking. You could have gone and done anything you wanted. Why real estate?
When I got into it, Kevin, I was working and I was doing well at my 9-to-5 job. We had something tragic happen in my family. My father passed, and it was a thing where I needed something that could exploit really what I had to give, and then something that didn't have a ceiling, right? So at the job that I was at, I could do as much as I could in sales. I was only going to go so far, and real estate was something that didn't have a ceiling. There was nothing that told me that I couldn't do X amount of deals. You know, if I wanted to work 24 hours, there was nothing stopping me. So that's why I went into the industry with that in mind. Was very naive, didn't know a lot, but I knew that there was nothing that could stop me as far as how far I wanted to go.
Diego Espinoza last year sold over 160 properties and was the #1 individual agent in our MLS, which consists of over 1,000 agents. Diego, I want to go back to when I met you 5 years ago, and I believe you were 21 years old. You're going to Fresno State full-time as a finance major, and that first year, how many homes did you sell in your first full year of real estate?
First full year was, I'm not quite sure, it was up there 102 to 105 range. And I say that because it was literally the last day that there was like 6 of them on the ringer that closed. But the point was we did get over 100, which was the goal.
I remember you having that goal and how determined you were to hit it. And that last week, I think you even sold a couple properties to your girlfriend Michelle, if I remember.
I did.
I did. And I don't know how you pulled that off. That was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was right on the ringer, like I said. But we pulled it off, and it was for a while there. You know, the last few months were almost suicidal. The schedule, really. You know, it was you had finals in school, and you're going full time there. The teachers don't know that you're tired, and you're trying to break a record over here, and commuting. It's not like the college was here in town, so it was the commute was an hour away, and it was doing that every single day. So you can imagine it was hectic.
Yeah, keeping in mind you're a full-time finance major in your last or next to last year of college.
Yes.
Right? Real estate agents that are watching this show, they understand 100 closings is a benchmark that very, very few, less than 1% of all agents ever hit. It's something that when I started out, when everybody starts out that has that high drive, it's something you want to hit. And you hit it at the age of 21 in your first full year of real estate, which is quite amazing. But I want to go back before that.
Real quick, I think, sorry to interrupt you, I think it was 22 turning 23. Because the first 6-8 months of real estate was my first 21 years old, then I was 22, and that's when I broke that. So just to clarify.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Diego, because I want to talk about that. So your first 6 to 8 months in real estate, was not part of your first full year. So you started, and how'd you end up on the team that you're on now?
I started out, and it's a funny story. I went up to, his name's Nick Porte, and he's Michelle Porte's, my girlfriend's brother. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, what's the best team in real estate? And he said, well, the Kevin Blaine team. And I said, I'm joining it. He looked down and because I was really happy, but he kind of looked down and he said, you don't just join the Kevin Blaine team. You have to be asked to come on. So And so there was, we're all kind of a product of a lot of things, so people see the name now, but really we're a product of help from so many people, and that's, so when I started, it got going well, but definitely there was, the help from the team, right, from our team, and the help from so many people to kind of amplify that. So.
And I understand that because my real estate team would not be what my real estate team is today without you being on the real estate team. We've partnered in a lot of transactions, and it's been a lot of fun. But enough about me. I want to go back even a little bit further. What were some of the biggest obstacles or challenges for you? You can start from youth all the way up to when you closed 100 transactions for the first time of 5 consecutive years of closing over 100 transactions. What were some of those obstacles that you had and challenges that you had to get over?
Yeah, we lived in poverty, growing up, and it was, but I don't think about that as much of a challenge. I mean, back then, we always knew, hey, mom and dad are there, and there's not really, that's our safety net. So I can't even call that a challenge. I almost see it more as a blessing that we were brought up that way. But after, us passing and just everything kind of changing, I get into real estate, and my biggest challenge then, and it still is today, is age, right? Because I say it all the time, I go, I was 21, I looked 17, and I acted 15 sometimes. So it was hard to be trusted, even though I was doing as much volume as anybody else was doing, right?
Yes.
Or a lot of the agents were doing. So, and it's still today, where if you look at our numbers, and I always say we because I think of myself as a unit of a lot of people, but it's been, if you look at the volume, it's like we've done as many transactions as an agent can do in a bunch of years, right? And just a few. So we definitely have the experience. We definitely have a pulse on the market. But if I show up sometimes and another agent shows up who might be 25 years older than I am or 30 years older than I am, I almost feel that I have to make up for that and overcompensate, even though my experience might be greater than that other agent. So that's always been a challenge, but we've been able to live with it.
I read something and it made me think of you, Diego. They say, science says that it takes 20,000 hours or 10 years of experience to really master your craft. And when I read that, I thought to myself, I believe that. That's true. Diego just decided to do it in 4 years.
We just packed it. We packed it in a couple of years, in a few years, yeah.
So my question is your why. Like when you, I'm not talking present day. I'm not quite there yet. But when you started out, why did you work 100 hours a week? Why were you putting in 18, 20 hours a day, not partying, not hanging out with friends so much, but really dedicated to your profession in real estate?
It's I think for everyone that does that works that hard, there has to be a motive, and it's usually not money. Money in itself does not get you to not go out with friends and all that stuff. There has to be something else. So for me, it was a promise that I made really to my father. I just said, hey, I will see to, when he passed, I said I will see to it that my younger siblings don't see no want, that they do not lack the opportunity or the lessons that I had from him. So that for me has always been my motive. It still is today. My investment boutique investment firm, my construction company are both they have his nickname. So it's just something that propels me and fuels me forward still today, and I think probably for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I can see that. And I didn't get a pleasure to meet your father, but from what I've heard, you learned a lot from him, right?
Absolutely. It was one of those guys that had he been born here, had all the opportunities I had, he would have been a billionaire. It's just emotionally intelligent, super duper intelligent. So.
That's awesome. And you talk about your family. So your mom, she was around the other day to celebrate your 30 under 30, and you have 5 siblings, 2 brothers, 3 sisters.
Correct.
And you guys were living in a studio, basically a studio house.
Yeah.
Tell us about that briefly.
That's pretty nicely. The property's still there. It's 600 and some odd square feet, and it was 11 of us because it was a few of the uncles and their families. And we were packed there, man, and it didn't seem, I didn't know we were poor. We didn't have drywall, we didn't have heat, but I still didn't know we were poor.
It's what you knew.
Yeah, it's just what you know. And but it was a really good, really good starting point. And you know, I say that all the time. I say where you're at today, you know, whether you're born here or born there, it's just a point today. It's where you go from there.
Right.
So there's kids that might be born with billionaire parents, and you know, they're born here and they might go there. You're talking financially. There's other kids that might be born down here and go up here. So it's really about looking at the margin of growth, you know, or declining sometimes for some people. And so that for me. I don't ever see it as, oh, you know, poor us or poor this. We had to work in the fields. No, I think it's a blessing, and coupled with really good lessons from our parents. Shoot, they, you know, all the kids went Harvard, Notre Dame, London School of Econ, Columbia. So I think we had a blessed, you know, childhood, to be honest.
Well, you guys had a family, and there's nothing that's more important than that. And Diego did work in the fields with his parents, and but then you got a break, and you moved out of that small, and you moved up, right?
Moved up.
Yeah, you moved up into those nice apartments.
Yeah, there's
which at the time, you know, you felt like
we had drywall.
Arrived,
yeah,
right?
I remember I got there and I was touching the drywall, and I was like, well, these are I told myself, these apartments are like in the soap operas, and you know, I was touching the walls because we had drywall, and but now I know, you know, that they have a shooting, at least one shooting every two weeks or so. There's family that we have there still living there. There was a shooting inside their apartment 2 weeks ago. So just so you get an idea. But back then, and those were the garden apartments, is where, you know, where I grew up, and I still go back and I still have friends there. But that's where we moved up into, so to speak, from that small mother-in-law quarters.
Fast forwarding, you talked about your family, which I know is really important to you. Your three sisters who have been to Notre Dame and two Ivy League schools, London School of Business, and wildly successful, and your younger brother about to do the same thing. What does your family think of your success?
You know, it's funny. We don't talk much about it, but it's always been a very healthy, like, we all want each other to do really extremely well, but there's not much of like, hey, you know, you did so great. It's like, hey, you know you did great. Don't let your head get too big, and then keep going forward. And that's just the attitude we've always had. So, but I know what they think. They know what I think about them, and it's a really cool kind of atmosphere with them.
That's awesome, Diego. Well, we're out of time, so we're going to wrap up the first part of our two-part interview with Diego Espinoza, Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30. Make sure to tune in next week for KBTV and the second part of my interview with Diego Espinoza, Realtor Magazine 30 Under 30 honoree and top individual agent in Tulare County. Thanks for tuning in. Good night, everybody.
Welcome to the first episode of KBTV today.
Cinco de Mayo. I wish today was Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo. And we could have some Hispanic music playing. Diego Espinoza. Well, we're not filming yet, right?
No, go ahead.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, this is Kevin Blaine, and welcome to KBTV. This is our first episode of Web TV. Hi, welcome. I'll do that better.
Real quick.
Hey, when I talk about Biggie and Tupac, maybe that's when you can hit. That's when
It was all a dream.
It was all a dream.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and Pepper and Heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall. Every Saturday, rap attack Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let my tape rock till my tape pop.